Okay, we're live and the recording is now switched back on. So we're ready to start item 8 of our agenda, which again, it's repeated occasional licence and occasional extension applications. And it's a hearing for Hester Slater from the Stag and Thistle at Fraserburgh. So have we got anybody attending? Was the applicant with us? I don't think so.
Chair, I can confirm that Janet Hood represents the Stag and Thistle. She has been in contact with our admin team to confirm that she's not going to be present today and she's content for the board to hear the applications in her absence.
Okay, thank you. So we will have the Licensing Standards Officer with us, Sarah Ward, who made the representation. So will I just ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm the procedure for the hearing, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is similar to the item that was heard by the board just prior to our break. It's under our repeated occasional policy. Again, the report sets out the history of the applications that have been made to date. Harriet will be able to provide an update on the position of, I believe, a major variation application that may have been received. There's also the official representation from our Licensing Standards Officer, Sarah Ward, which highlights her conditions. And so far as the procedure is concerned, if the board is content to proceed in the absence of the applicant or their representative, we then hear from the Licensing Standards Officer. Questions can be asked of the Licensing Standards Officer, then some concluding remarks and back to the board for a determination. Perhaps if I could just ask Harriet to confirm if anything has been received.
Thank you, Morag. I can confirm that this premises holds a full premises licence and a variation application has been submitted recently for this extended area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So are members happy to proceed in the absence of the applicant or their agent? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, I can go straight to Sarah Ward, our Licensing Standards Officer. Can we just check that you're in the meeting?
I am in the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
And are you satisfied that you've received all of the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
I am, Marion.
Okay, thank you.
So as you're,
oh, I just need to read out the statement about the public participant meeting protocol, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Just that you need to mute your microphone when not speaking, and please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt any other speakers. And then once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you won't be entitled to speak again unless to answer a question. And we may have to adjourn, the board may ask to adjourn to deliberate the application, and the recording at that point would be paused and the board would retire to a separate online meeting room. So I'll go straight now to Sarah to speak to your representation, please.
Thank you. So as you're aware and confirmed by Morag, these applications are before the Licensing Board today in line with the Licensing Board's policy, in that the board must consider said occasional licence applications if the premises have been trading under occasional licences for more than 3 months. The Stag and Thistle premises are partially licensed with a premises licence, which covers phase 1 of the premises, which was granted on the 10th of November 23. These occasional licence applications refer to phase 2 of the premises, and I confirm that a major variation to add phase 2 to part of the premises was lodged by the licence holder's agent on the 3rd of April 24. Papers reflect a series of occasional licences that have been granted to date in respect of phase 2. Previous grants run from the 17th of November 23 to the 9th of April 24, and the outstanding occasional licences for your consideration today in line with the board's policy. For information only, it is my understanding that a further phase is to be added to the licence, which will require a further major variation. Standard and specific conditions were recommended in line with my representation, and I have no further comments to add, but happy to answer any questions the board may ask. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, have you any questions? No. So I think we have heard then that their major variation has been submitted on the 3rd of April. That's what we would have been looking for, I think, to cover this period. Mr. Menard. Mr. Menard. Oh, I think his screen has frozen. Oh, Mr. Menard.
Yeah, sorry, I dropped out for a minute. I'm back in
Thought
again.
that, yeah.
The question I was going to ask, the thing, how far down the road is phase 3 for this enterprise before it comes back to us again? Thank you.
Sarah,
I'm not in a position to confirm that. I know there's works underway, but phase 3 is not part of the current major variation that's being lodged at the moment. In terms of the occasional licences that you're considering today, it may well be the case that the licence holders instruct the agent to lodge further occasional licences for phase 3, but they would need to see a further pattern of 3 months like we've had since the 17th of November last year.
Okay, thank you very much.
For that one, I mean, they may just go straight to a major variation. They might not be looking on occasionals. I think we really have to concentrate on this phase 2 today. No questions? Do members require any legal advice from the clerk? No. In that case, I will open the matter for debate. No comments? In that case, can you confirm you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I could call for a motion. Ms. Black?
Thank you. I would propose that we grant these occasional licenses, which take us up to the 26th of August, seeing as a major variation application has already been applied for.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Ms. Nichol?
Thanks. Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, is there an amendment? No. So in that case, can I ask a Deputy Clerk to confirm the motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. So the motion by Ms Black, seconded by Mrs Nichol, is to grant the occasional licence applications before you today, subject to the standard conditions and the recommended conditions within the LSO report. Chair, if I could also ask for the board to simply give me or give officers a steer as to how you wish future occasional licence applications to be dealt with should it become necessary prior to the major application being granted.
I would be content to add to the motion with delegation to officers for future occasionals, should it be necessary in processing of that major variation, or words to that effect.
Okay, and would that be with or without consultation with the convener? That's the only other.
I'd be
Marion?
happy for that. I'd be happy for that delegation to officers.
Yeah.
Would you? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can I just confirm then that the motion would be to grant, as I stated, to grant the applications before you, subject to standard and recommended conditions, with delegated powers given to officers to grant future occasional licence applications prior to the major variation being granted and processed and granted.
Yep.
Okay.
Chair, do you wish to do that by roll call, or?
I think we'll just check it's unanimous. Are you happy as a seconder with that addition, Jenny?
Yeah, content. Yeah.
So can we just check by roll call then that that decision is unanimous? Because I do think there's a member missing at the moment. So
There is. So Unless anyone wishes that clarified, everybody happy that the motion is clear? Yep.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Stuart Adams,
Agreed.
thank you. Ms. Dawn Black,
Agreed.
Mr. Jeff Crowson,
Agreed.
thank you. Mrs. Marion Ewanson,
Agreed.
Mr. Goodall is not with us at the moment, so Mr. Trevor Mason,
Agreed.
thank you. Mr. Richard Maynard,
Agreed.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol,
Agreed.
Ms. Mel Sullivan,
Agreed.
and Mr. Ian Taylor.
And agreed.
Thank you. So that's unanimous, Chair, that those applications are granted and delegated powers to officers to deal with the future occasional licence applications.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to item 9, which is the grant of occasional licence, repeated occasional licence, grant of occasional extension applications, a hearing for Barry Donald from the Tornacoy at Inchmarlow Bankery. And I believe the applicant is attending today, and also the Licensing Standards Officer, Keith Simpson.
That's my understanding, Chair. Is
Okay.
Mr. Donald present? Mr. Donald, are you there?
Could we maybe try dialing him in if he's got a number? If he said he was attending.
He was certainly in and muted earlier
Oh,
on.
there's a number now. There's a number.
I believe he's in the meeting. It's *5 or *6, Mr. Donald, to unmute yourself on your phone. That'll allow you to speak.
Thanks, Harriet.
That's me now, sorry.
Okay,
That's
thank
okay.
you. Welcome. Please note that the board meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. If I just ask the Deputy Clerk now to confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Similar to previous items, but just for the benefit of the applicant, this matter is before the board this morning in line with our repeated occasional licence policy, whereby after a period of 3 months, officers no longer have delegated powers to grant those licences. The report sets out the history of the application that has been made to date. Harriet will be able to provide an update on the position of any premises licence application that may have been received. There's an official representation from our Licensing Standards Officer, Keith Simpson, and it will thereafter be for the board to determine whether these applications are to be granted today based on any explanation for any lack of a premises licence application provided by the applicant. Insofar as the procedure is concerned, the board will hear from the applicant, then hear from the Licensing Standards Officer. The applicant has a right of reply. Questions can be asked of all parties, and then concluding remarks in reverse order prior to the board determining the matter. Chair, prior to handing back to you, I just take this opportunity to ask Harriet to confirm whether or not a premises licence application has been received.
Thank you, Morag. I can confirm a full premises licence application has been received and it's being processed accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I just confirm that Barry Donald is present in the meeting?
I'm here, yeah.
And are you satisfied you've received all the relevant information and you feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Definitely, yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Yep. And also, can I confirm that Keith Simpson, the Licensing Standards Officer, is present?
Yes, present, Chair.
And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphones when not speaking if your phone permits this. Please do not speak unless I invite you to do so. Excuse me. And please do not interrupt the other speakers. If you do, you may be asked to leave the meeting. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and we can resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So I'll go first to you, Mr. Donald, to outline the terms of the application to the board, and you may wish to address the concerns raised in the representation, although you will get further opportunity to address the board after the LSO has spoken. So over to you, Mr. Donald.
Thank you very much. So the history of the occasional licence application set out in section 3.17A of the report to the Licensing Board prepared by Harriet Tevendale and dated 2nd of April 2024, accepted by me. The wider background to applications is that the premises have been licensed for the sale of alcohol for many years, laterally under the premises licence issued by the board on the 1st of September 2009 under number ABS P140. I have been the designated premises manager named in the operating plan of that premises licence. That premises licence was held by Drumtockley Castle Limited. Due to a corporate restructure, that entity was dissolved in March 2019. Inadvertently, that dissolution took place without the licence being transferred to the continuing corporate entity, the Drumtockley Estates Limited. The situation came into light July 2023 when the Drumtockley Estate Limited contacted the board to update information contained in the licence. The board quickly identified that the licence holder had ceased to exist, with the result the licence had ceased to take effect. As soon as that issue came to light, steps were taken to regulate the trading in the premises, and as a result of the urgency of the position, this was achieved by way of applications for repeated occasional licences. No objection has been made by any party to these licences. They have been granted without incident until the present applications were made. While the position was regulated by the repeated occasional licences, Drumtockley Estates Limited worked on preparing an application for full premises licence. The final S50 certificate was placed on the 21st of December 2023. The board's requirements in respect of the operating and layout plans had advanced since the previous grant in 2009. Work continued to prepare these plans, and on the 15th of March, we submitted the application. This was acknowledged by letter of the 25th of March 2024. By way of that letter, the board requested clarification of certain aspects of the application. The process of clarification is well underway. I think we're almost finished that now. And I acknowledge the repeated occasional license are not a substitute for premises license. In this case, a full premises license was applied for on the 15th of March. I submit that in terms of the board's policy, there's sufficient evidence of movement towards an application for a premises license. In fact, I'm able to demonstrate steps beyond simply moving towards an application. The application has been made, is in the process of clarification and consideration. I understand the application will be able to be heard by the board at the next meeting on the 26th of June. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I have also applied for these in case anything comes. I've applied for occasional license extended beyond the date of the next board out of abundance of prudence to account for any such unforeseen circumstances. I submit that the circumstances of these applications fall within the terms of the board's policy. I have no intention to proceed indefinitely with repeated occasional license, and I am able to demonstrate that with reference to the premises license, the application which is already made, I invite the board to grant the applications in these circumstances. Thank you very much for your time.
Sorry, I'm on mute myself. Thank you very much, Mr. Donald. I can now ask the Licensing Standards Officer, Mr. Keith Simpson, to speak to his representation.
Yes, good afternoon, convener, board members. The applications before you today are for 5 occasional licences made by personal licence holder Mr. Barry Donald on behalf of the Tornacoil Hotel Bankery. The applications were submitted on the 29th of January 2024, covering the period the 13th of May 24 to the 21st of July 24 inclusive. These applications are the most recent in a series of occasional licences dating back to the 29th of July 2023. The premises themselves are a well-established hotel in the heart of Bankery, and I believe that Mr. Donald has explained the background as to why the original premises licence ceased to have effect and has resulted in the requirement for occasional licences to be in place to allow them to continue to trade. I think he's put that across very well, and that's why we find ourselves in the position that we find ourselves today. I can confirm that the application for a premises licence has been submitted by Drumtochty Estates Limited, and this is currently being progressed through due process. Given that the premises have been running on occasional licences for more than 3 months, I consider these applications to be inconsistent with para 4.45 of the Supplementary Policy 4 of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board Statement of Licensing Policy 2023 to 28. The purpose of my representation is to make the board aware of this potential breach of policy and for you to consider the matter. If the board are minded to grant these applications, my proposed conditions to be applied are set out in my letter of representation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So now, Mr. Donald, is there anything you want to add, having heard from the Licensing Standards Officer?
No, nothing at all. Thank you.
Okay, so board members, have you got any questions for either party? No, no questions. So in that case, Keith, have you got anything you want to say in closing?
No, nothing further to add, Chair.
Okay, Mr. Donald, have you anything you want to add?
No, just a thank you.
Okay. Do board members require any legal advice from the clerk? No, not seeing any indications. So would the Deputy Clerk please outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Thank you, Chair. Again, there are no grounds upon which to refuse these applications. As the board's aware, the purpose of this hearing is to ensure that the applicant is moving towards a premises licence, and that's been confirmed to you this morning. Any grant would be subject to the recommended conditions within the LSO report and the standard conditions. And again, Chair, I would just be asking that the board give officers a steer as to how you wish any future occasional licence applications to be dealt with prior to the premises licence coming before the board.
Okay, thank you. So do board members wish to retire to deliberate at all? No. So in that case, I can open the matter for members to debate. No, there's a number one. Oh no, so it's Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, convener. On this occasion, I would thank Mr. Donald for his very frank contributions. I value his honesty and his understanding of the board situation, in terms of ultimately looking to achieve the premises licence, and his understanding of that. And to my mind, because of that, we should grant the occasional licences and any according to the recommendations laid out in the licensing officer's representation letter, and delegate any potential future occasionals to officers. And I would put forward that as a motion. Thank you.
Okay.
And seek a second.
Right, just before we get to that then, since we've gone on, can I just check that members can confirm they've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Adams, are you wishing to second? I see your hand up.
I am, yes. Thank you, convener.
Okay. Is there any amendment? No. So in that case, can I just get the clerk to confirm the motion from Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, Chair. So we have a motion from Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Adams, that the occasional licence applications before you today are granted, subject to the standard conditions and the recommended conditions within the LSO report, and further that any future occasional licence applications received prior to determination of the premises licence are delegated to officers to determine.
Okay, thank you. Is that a unanimous decision? I think we could probably take roll call to make sure we know who's here.
Thank you, Chair. So if I go to Mr. Stuart Adams first.
Agreed.
Thank you. Ms. Dawn Black.
Agreed.
Mr. Jeff Crowson.
Agreed.
Mrs. Marion Ewanson.
Agreed.
Again, we don't have Mr. Goodall with us at the moment. So Mr. Trevor Mason.
Agreed.
Mr. Richard Maynard.
Agreed.
Mrs. Jenny Nichol.
Agreed.
Ms. Mel Sullivan.
Agreed.
Mr. Ian Taylor.
Agreed.
Chair, that's unanimous, that the unanimous decision that the occasional licences are granted today, subject to the standard and recommended conditions, and that future occasional licensing applications will be delegated to officers to determine prior to the premises licence being considered by the board. So that's clear to Mr. Donald. Mr. Donald, your applications have been granted this morning.
Thank you very much.
Still there.
Okay.
Mr. Donald, you'll receive your licenses, you'll receive a written notice of the decision within 7 days, and then your licenses will follow thereafter. And you're free to remain in the meeting, or you're equally free to leave.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Donald. Right, and thank you, Keith. So we're now on to item 10. The grant of occasional licence, repeated occasional licence, grant of occasional extension applications. The hearing, this time it's for the applicant Kenneth Watt from the Palace Hotel Limited, Peterhead. And the licensing standards officer this time is Kevin MacDonald. I believe we have Andrew Mackey representing the applicant. Oh, I see we also have Mr. Watt in the meeting. Okay, can I just please note that
Andrew Mackey was there too.
I don't see Andrew Mackey. Oh yes, he's there now. His shoulder's there in the picture.
You're on mute, Mr. Mackey.
Is that any better?
Yeah, we can see you. Yeah, welcome. So please note that the meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. And I will now ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm the procedure for the hearing.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to previous items, I believe Mr. Mackey and Mr. Watt have actually been present this morning, but just to confirm, these matters are before the board this morning in line with our repeated occasional licence policy, whereby after a period of 3 months, officers no longer have the authority to grant those applications, and they come before the board for determination. The board will see that the report sets out the history of the applications that have been made to date. Harriet will be able to provide an update on the position of any premises licence application that may have been received. There is an official representation from our Licensing Standards Officer, Kevin MacDonald, and it's for the board to determine whether these applications are to be granted today based on any explanation that may be forthcoming about an application for a premises licence. Insofar as the procedure is concerned, we hear from the applicant, hear from the Licensing Standards Officer. The applicant has a right of reply. Questions can be asked of all parties, and then concluding remarks in reverse order. And thereafter, it's for the board to determine the applications before you. Chair, prior to passing back to you to follow the procedure, I take this opportunity just to ask Harriet to confirm whether or not a premises licence application has been received.
Thank you, Morag. I can confirm that this premises already holds a premises licence, and a variation application has been submitted in the last couple of days to outline this extended area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So can I just confirm that Kenneth Watt is present or represented?
I am present and being represented by Andrew Mackay.
Okay. And we've seen it's Mackay, not Mackey. Am I mispronouncing your name, Andrew?
No, I don't take any offence. You know, it's Mackie, but it's yes, it's Mackie, yes.
Okay. And just, are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And then can I confirm that Kevin MacDonald, the Licensing Standards Officer, is present?
Present. Hello.
And are you satisfied you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
I can I just highlight before proceedings start that in regard to my representation, I'd like to request that the board delete in its entirety my reference to part 4.46 of the board's policy. There's no evidence whatsoever of any concern over securing public safety or protecting or improving public health, and the representation has that struck from it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Can I just go to Morag, please?
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to highlight that Mr. Goodall has rejoined the meeting.
Yeah.
I was just to check before this item starts.
Okay. So have you heard this item so far, Jeff?
Yeah, I was just, my hand up was just to confirm that. I've heard some of it, and I just want to be clear that nothing started that I...
No.
That's fine.
We've just gone over the procedure and admitted the applicant and his representative and the LSO. So that's as far as we've got. And Harriet was able to confirm that there is a full premises licence and they have submitted an application for a variation to include the area in question.
Thank you.
So in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking. If your phone permits this, please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt other speakers. If you do, you may be asked to leave the meeting. And then once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and I can resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So we'll go first to the applicant, Kenneth Watt, but it's maybe Andrew Mackey who's speaking on your behalf.
Yes, Milady.
Okay.
Yeah, these applications do have some parallels and similarities with cases that have came before the board this morning already and this afternoon. The genesis of this is obviously that the licensing officer did raise some, highlight some potential concerns of the consistency with the board's updated policies, and specifically in relation to 4.45 of the board's policies. As has been confirmed to the board, this afternoon, variation to the premise holder's license has been submitted, and my primary submission would be that that represents sufficient evidence of progress being made towards a variation. In terms of the licensing officer's recommendations and comments, there's no objections taken to that, and the applicant's quite happy to comply with those any additional conditions which are attached to the license, occasional license. Otherwise, as the board will see, there has been no adverse representation, so to speak, connected to the license applications. And I do note the comments which were made by the licensing officer at the outset of this afternoon's hearing that he moved to delete any reference to concerns with public safety in 4.46, and that's obviously much appreciated and acknowledged. Yeah, I suppose as a the police have also obviously confirmed in their representations that they had no issues with the applications.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mackey. I'll go to Kevin MacDonald now, the Licensing Standards Officer, to speak to your representation.
Good afternoon. I will try and keep this very brief. As Mr. McKay said, much of what's been said will be repeated here. 4 occasional licences have been submitted, running from the 14th of May through to the 8th of July. These applications are the latest in a series of occasional licence applications which date back to May 2021. There have been no concerns regarding any of these. A variation application was received back in April 2022, which did come to a halt towards the end of that year. The only reason that the representation has been brought to the board is the fact that it's inconsistent with the board's current policy 4.45. Again, I'm not going to repeat that. It's simply the fact that it's been occurring on the premises regularly over a period of at least 3 months. And I have no other things to bring to the board other than they've complied fully previously, and I have no objections. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mackey, do you want to come back in with anything that you've heard in the submission?
No, Chair Lady.
Okay. It's now open to board members to ask questions. No questions? I just have one myself for Kevin. You mentioned a variation application was received in April 2022 and halted later that year. Can you give me some detail on that, please?
There was correspondence between Mr. Watt's representative and the licensing solicitors, and the correspondence appeared to end. That's all I have. In regard to that, the correspondence was seeking more information from the applicant's agent at the time, and then it appears that the application at that time has either come to halt or has been withdrawn.
Okay, thank you. So I don't see any indications for questions. So in that case, it's closing remarks, starting first with yourself, Kevin.
I have no objections to the occasional licence applications, and if the board approves the granting of the applications, I've requested the usual local conditions be applied. No further comment, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mackey, do you wish to say anything in closing?
No, my lady.
Okay, thank you. Do board members require any legal advice from the clerk? No. So can I ask the Deputy Clerk please to outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Thank you, Chair. Again, there are no grounds upon which the board can refuse these applications. The board's aware the purpose today is to ensure that the applicant moves towards, in this case, a variation of their premises licence. Any grant today would be subject to the standard conditions as suggested by Mr. MacDonald. Again, Chair, I'd be asking that the board give officers a steer as to how they wish future occasional licence applications to be granted and whether or not they're prepared for authority to be delegated to officers to deal with those prior to the variation being administratively dealt with.
Okay, thank you. So members, it's over to you for debate. No indications? Mr. Taylor?
Thank you, convener. While it was disappointing that correspondence back in December 22 ultimately came to a halt, but I think things are progressing at this particular stage. We've heard that the premises license has been lodged, and the variation will be considered. So things are at least progressing in my view. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just stop you there. It's not a premises license, it is just a variation, a major variation application. Just
yes,
okay.
Slip of the tongue, I do apologise.
Mr. Menard, please.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with the presentation that we've received from the applicants and the like. I think if a motion were to come forward, I would always ask for, I would propose that we grant the application for these occasional licenses subject to LSO recommendations.
Okay, in that case, if we're moving to determination, can I just confirm with board members that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
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 Okay. So have we got a motion, Mr. Menard?
Yes, my motion is that we sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied here. I've got interference in the back. Yes, I propose that we grant these applications subject to LSO recommendations, and also delegate to officers, should it be necessary, for any other future license requirements. Thank you.
Do you mean occasional license applications?
Sorry, yeah, occasional license applications. Thank you.
Okay, have we got a seconder? Ms. Black?
Yes, happy to second.
Okay. Is there an amendment? No. So in that case, can I go to Deputy Clerk, please, just to outline the motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I just confirm, and I'm sure it is the intention, given the comments by the LSO, it would be subject to police and the LSO recommended conditions, if members are content.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So we have a motion from by Mr. Maynard, seconded by Ms. Black, to grant the occasional license applications before you today, subject to the standard local conditions and the LSO and police conditions that have been recommended, and to delegate authority to officers to process any future occasional license applications that may be received prior to the major variation being determined.
Okay, thank you. Is that unanimous, members?
Agreed. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think we need to go to a roll call because I think everybody is actually in the meeting. Okay, so can the Deputy Clerk just confirm the board's decision?
Yes, just to the applicant and Mr. Mackey, I can confirm that the occasional licence applications before the board this morning have been granted. The board have also determined that any future occasional licence applications received prior to the major variation being determined will be dealt with by officers under delegated authority. The licence applications this morning are subject to the standard conditions, standard local conditions, the LSO recommended conditions and police recommended conditions. And Mr. Mackey, Mr. Watt, you're welcome to stay. Thank you for coming along this afternoon, but equally you're just as welcome to leave.
Okay, so thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We now move on to item 11 on our agenda, which is the grant of an occasional licence, repeated occasional licence, grant of occasional extension applications. It's a hearing and it's for Kieran Dreelan from Bogganwraith Equestrian Limited, Durras at Bankery. Are the parties in the meeting? Do we know? I think Mr. Deeran was planning to attend.
I believe Mr. Dreelan is present.
Yes, I'm on the call.
He's on the call. Right, welcome.
Thank you.
So, just for the benefit of parties brought into the meeting, please note the board meeting will be recorded and published online for public viewing after the meeting. And can I now just ask the Deputy Clerk to confirm the procedure for the hearing?
Thank you, Chair. Similar to the previous applications, these applications are before you as a result of our repeated application policy, whereby after 3 months, officers no longer have delegated powers to grant these applications. Again, the report sets out the history of the applications that have been made to date. Harriet will be able to confirm whether or not a premises licence application has been received. We have an official representation from Keith Simpson, our licensing standards officer, and it will thereafter be for the board to determine whether these applications are to be granted today based on any explanation given by the applicant as to whether or not a premises licence is being progressed. Insofar as the procedure is concerned, we're to hear from the applicant, hear from Keith Simpson, the LSO. The applicant has a right of reply. Questions can be asked of all parties, and then concluding remarks in reverse order. And it's then for the board to reach a determination on the applications. And Chair, again, just prior to handing back to you, I take this opportunity to ask Harriet to confirm whether or not any applications have been received.
Thank you, Maura. I can confirm a full premises licence application has been received and is being processed accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, can I just confirm that Mr. Kieran Dreelan is present in the meeting?
Yes, I am.
Yep. And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information, and do you feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, of course.
And can I also confirm that Keith Simpson, the licensing standards officer, is present?
Yes, convener, present.
And are you satisfied that you've received all the relevant information and feel able to participate in the determination of the application?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. So in line with the guidance you've received in the public participant meeting protocol for licensing board hearings, please can you mute your microphone when not speaking if your phone permits this, and please do not speak unless I invite you to do so, and please do not interrupt other speakers. If you do, I may ask you to leave the meeting. Once you've been asked to make concluding remarks, you're not entitled to speak again unless to answer a question from a board member. Once the board has made its decision, you will be asked to leave the meeting. If the board requires to adjourn to deliberate the application, the recording of the meeting will be paused and the board will retire to a separate online meeting room. Please wait in the main meeting room until the board members return and we can resume the meeting. At that point, the recording of the meeting will be restarted. So we'll go to you first, Mr. Dreelan, as the applicant, to outline the terms of your application to the board, and you may wish to address the concerns raised in the representation at this time, although you will get further opportunity to address the board after the other parties have spoken. Mr. Dreelan.
Okay, thank you, folks. So Bogan Equestrian is a new facility at Doris, which is a full operating equestrian centre. Within it, we have a restaurant, and as part of that, serving meals and alcohol. So our premises opened on the 19th of January this year. Prior to that, we had engagement with the LSO Keith Simpson about our occasional licences and obviously the process of going through for a full premises license application. We've been operating from the 19th of January under occasional licenses and have the two that are in front of you now have been submitted, which are beyond that 3-month threshold as part of your own policy. Our premises license application has been submitted. It took us a little bit longer to get in than we had anticipated, a bit about getting our S50s and also our own timing to try and turn around exactly what was needed. But that has been submitted on the 9th of April. We have had some correspondence back on it and on Friday last week, and those queries are being worked on and updated and planned to be back in to Harriet by the end of this week. So we have no issues with the report that has been submitted. We've had no complaints or no compliance issues that we are aware of, and we've engaged with the LSO Keith Simpson throughout the whole process. And really our request and the requirement for the additional occasional licenses is to see us through until the full premises license can be put in front of you and reviewed accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Now I'll go over to Keith Simpson, the LSO, to speak to his representation.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Much along the same lines of previous applications today. The applications before you for 2 occasional licences made by personal licence holder Mr. Kieran Dreelan for Bogan Equestrian Durris Bankery. The applications were submitted on the 27th of March 2024, covering the period of 16th of May 24 to 12th of June inclusive. These applications are the most recent in a series of occasional licences dating back to the 19th of January 2024 when the Equestrian Centre opened. As Mr. Dreelan has alluded to, the premises is a newly constructed equestrian centre near Durris, and it consists of a 160-seater grandstand, a 55-cover restaurant with small bar area, retail units, and lecture room capable of holding up to 100 people. I can confirm that an application for a premises licence has been submitted by Bogan Equestrian Limited and is currently being progressed through the due process. Again, as per previous applications, given that the premises have been run an occasional licence for the 3 months threshold, I consider these applications to be inconsistent with para 4.45 of Supplementary Policy 4 of the Aberdeenshire Licensing Board Statement of Policy 2023-28. Again, the purpose of the representation is to make the board aware of this potential breach of policy and for you to consider the matter accordingly. If the board are minded to grant these applications, my proposed conditions to be applied are set out in my letter of representation, and I can confirm I have no objections to continued use of the occasional licence under those circumstances. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Dreelan, have you anything you wish to add, having heard the submission from the Licensing Standards Officer?
No, I have nothing further to add.
Okay, thank you. So, board members, have you any questions for either party? No. No indications. So we'll go to closing remarks. Over to you first, Keith.
No, nothing further to add, Chair.
And then Mr. Dreelan, have you any closing remarks?
The only one question that I would have on listening to some of the other cases beforehand is we have been working towards the license application, premises application, to be with yourselves for the next board meeting, which I believe is the 26th of June. And I've just realised as part of that timing process, by hearing it on here, that we would require to submit a further application to bring us up to that date. That would be the only further comment that I would need to make.
Okay, thank you. Do board members require any legal advice from the clerk at this point? No. So can I go over to the Deputy Clerk, please, to outline the terms of the legal test for the application?
Thank you, Chair. Again, there are no grounds upon which to refuse these applications. As the board's aware, the purpose of this hearing this morning is to ensure that the applicant is moving towards a full premises licence. And that's a matter for the board, having heard submissions this morning. Again, Chair, I'd be asking that the board give officers a steer as to how you wish future occasional licence applications to be dealt with, especially given that the applications before you, the latest end date is 12th of June, as highlighted by the applicant. It's whether or not you're prepared for that to be a delegated authority to officers.
Okay, thank you. Just ask members to keep that in mind. Now open to members for debate. I don't see any indications. So can I just check with members that you've received sufficient evidence upon which to make a decision?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So is there a motion? Ms. Black?
Thank you. I would be content to put forward a motion that we grant these occasionals with delegation to officers for any future occasional applications that come through, subject to the conditions that have been laid out in the report. I would seek a seconder.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sullivan?
That would be me seconding, because Dawn got there first for moving.
Okay, thank you. Is there an amendment? No. So in that case, can the Deputy Clerk just confirm that motion, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. We have a motion from Ms. Black, seconded by Ms. Sullivan, that the occasional licences before you this afternoon are granted, subject to the standard local conditions and specific conditions contained within the LSO report, and that thereafter any future occasional licence applications have delegated authority to officers to process.
Okay, thank you. So is that a unanimous view, members?
Agreed.
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 Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Okay. Can we just confirm the board's decision then?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as far as these applications are concerned, they have been granted subject to the standard local conditions and the recommended conditions by the licensing service officer. The written notice of the decision will be given in 7 days and the licenses will follow thereafter. Insofar as any future occasional licence applications are concerned, the board has delegated authority to officers to process and grant those applications.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Dreelan, thank you for attending today.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. Right, we have one more hearing at item 12, but we have been going an hour. I would suggest a quick 10-minute comfort break. It takes us to 1 o'clock, but the standing orders at 1 o'clock don't apply to the licensing board, so we should be able to continue. So it's about 1:45. So even I would suggest 15 minutes, maybe longer than we need. Just a quick comfort break. If we come back at 1:55 and get restarted. So can I ask for the recording and the live stream to be turned off at this point?